Year 1162. The steppes of Mongolia tremble under the frozen wind. Temujin, an orphaned boy, struggles with hunger in forgotten tents. Betrayal and blades surround him. The Mongol tribes, scattered and savage, are drowned in endless wars. But this young man, with a will of steel, casts a long shadow. His riders on swift horses charge through the desert dust. Enemies lose sleep just from the rumors of his name. Mongol arrows tear through the sky. Their daggers hide dark secrets. One mistake could turn everything to ashes. This man, Genghis Khan, how did he build the greatest empire in history? The tale of his fiery battles is ready. Stay with us. Year 1162. The steppes of Mongolia roar beneath a gray sky. Temujin, son of a tribal chief, was born in a mud tent. But fortune did not favor him. At the age of 9, his father, Yasuge, was poisoned by enemies. Their tribe abandoned Temujin and his family to the bone-chilling cold. Hunger and betrayal cast heavy shadows. His mother, with empty hands, raised Temujin in this savage world. Mongolia, a land of scattered tribes, was filled with swords and fury. The Tatars, the Merkits, and the Tayachud clashed on swift horses. As a teenager, Temujin was captured by the Tayachud. He spent his days in a wooden cage under the lash of enemies. But one dark night, with cunning, he escaped through a muddy river. That escape lit a fire of vengeance in his heart. At 16, Temujin married Berte, a girl from a neighboring tribe. But joy didn't last long. The Merkits, with wild screams, raided their tent and kidnapped Berte. Burning with rage, Temujin sought help from Ong Khan, the powerful leader of the Karahites. At dawn, Karahite riders and a handful of Temujin's loyal men struck the Merkits. Arrows filled the sky and daggers flashed in the morning mist. Berte was freed and Temujin's name echoed across the steppes. With sharp eyes, Temujin watched the tribes. He had no heavy armor, no great army, only a will of steel. Through alliance and threat, he gathered nameless warriors around him. But an old enemy stood in his path, Jamuka, his childhood friend, now a rival. Jamuka, with countless riders, roamed the Mongolian plains. Their clash turned to frozen hills red with blood. Temujin, using wit, bought the loyalty of Jamuka's own allies. On a cold evening, Temujin's riders stormed Jamuka's camp. Horses thundered through the snow, spears pierced enemy hearts. Jamuka fled, but his star had faded. In the year 1206, by the banks of the Anan River, the Mongol tribes gathered around Temujin. The elders, cloaked in wolfskin, raised a white banner with 9 tails. Temujin, wearing a cloth cap and holding a curved sword, stood in the center. The tribes roared, shaking the heavens. Genghis Khan, world conqueror. The Mongols, divided for centuries, were now united. Mud tents filled with drums and fire thundered under Genghis's banner. This man, through blood and cunning, conquered the heart of the steppes. Mongolia was ready to shake the world. Year 1209. The plains of northern Kitai thundered beneath the hooves of Mongol horses. Genghis Khan, newly crowned unifier of the Mongol tribes, had launched his assault on the Jin Empire. Kitai, land of stone cities, armored armies, and towering walls, stood like a mountain in the path of the Mongols. In the golden palace of Zhongdu, Emperor Xuanzong looked confidently at the bronze shields of his soldiers. But the Mongols, armed with curved bows and boundless fury, had come to break that mountain. For centuries, Khitai had repelled northern tribes with its disciplined military. The Jin soldiers, wielding long spears and wearing heavy armor, fought in iron ranks. Their cities, like Zhengdu, seemed impenetrable with iron gates and deep moats. But Genghis Khan didn't need armor or walls. His horsemen, swift and light, moved like wind across the steppe. From a distance, they rained down deadly arrows, vanishing before enemy spears could even reach them. In 1211, a great battle ignited at the Badger Pass, a narrow gorge guarding the gates of Khitai, flanked by jagged cliffs and winding paths. The Jin army, tens of thousands strong, lay in ambush in the valley. But the Mongols, cunning as ever, circled around the hills. Jochi, Genghis Khan's eldest son, struck from behind like a storm. Arrows darkened the sky. Jin horses collapsed in blood and mud. The armored soldiers were crushed beneath Mongol hooves. The pass was paved with enemy corpses. The road to Khitai was now open. Genghis Khan didn't stop. His riders poured into the Khitai plains. One by one, smaller cities fell. The Mongols followed a brutal tactic. If a city surrendered, it lived. If it resisted, it burned. In one rebellious city, the Mongols broke through the gates, set homes ablaze, and turned markets into rivers of blood. Word of the massacre spread like wind across Khitai. The next cities raised white flags and opened their gates. Terror had become the Mongols' most effective weapon. By 1213, the Mongols reached Zhengdu, the Jin capital. Protected by 3 layers of walls and towering bastions, it was the heart of Khitai. Genghis Khan encircled it with massive catapults. Stones and fire rained on Zhengdu day and night. Inside, the people, starving and terrified, huddled in dark alleyways. Jin generals, distrusting their emperor, whispered of betrayal. In 1214, fearing total collapse, Emperor Xuanzong offered a heavy tribute. Genghis, ever strategic, accepted and withdrew. But the peace was just the calm before the storm. In 1215, the Mongols returned. Zhengdu, still wounded from the first siege, crumbled under the second. Catapults pulverized the walls. Mongol horsemen stormed the imperial palace with deafening cries. Xuanzong fled, but the city fell. The bustling markets of Zhengdu overflowed with plunder. The Mongols' 9-tailed banner rose over the golden palace. Jochi, blood-stained sword in hand, stood beside his father. Khitai, the once unbreakable empire, had been brought to its knees. This conquest was more than just a victory. With the fall of Khitai, Genghis Khan proved that the Mongols could shatter mighty empires. The spoils of Zhengdu, carried on camel caravans, were taken back to the steppe. Captured Jin engineers began building siege engines for the Mongols. Now armed with better armor and advanced weapons, the Mongol horsemen grew even stronger. Khitai was only the first step in Genghis Khan's march toward world domination. The steppe had become the beating heart of a rising empire. The year was 1219. The deserts of Khwarezm burned under the scorching sun. Genghis Khan, leading his Mongol horsemen, charged from the steppes toward the Khwarezmian Empire. This land, with its flourishing cities like Bukhara and Samarkand, was the heart of Iran and Central Asia. Ala al-Din Muhammad, Sultan of the Khwarezmian dynasty, lounged in his marble palace in Samarkand, backed by his massive army. But a single mistake would bring his empire to ruin. The Khwarezmians, with their silk markets and golden caravans, were an unrivaled power. Their soldiers, clad in steel armor and wielding curved swords, marched proudly across the plains. Ala al-Din, full of pride, looked down on the Mongols as unknown nomads. Genghis Khan, having just conquered the Khitan lands, sent a caravan of 450 Mongol merchants bearing silk gifts to the city of Otrar. But Inalchik, the governor of Otrar, killed the merchants and looted their goods. Instead of apologizing, Ala al-Din executed the Mongol envoys. That insult ignited the fire of Genghis Khan's wrath. In 1220, the Mongol horsemen swept into Khwarezm like a storm. Ala al-Din's army, hundreds of thousands strong, lined up in the plains of Otrar. But the Mongols, with their swift horses and deadly bows, mocked the enemy's heavy formations. At dawn, in a haze of dust, Mongol arrows darkened the sky. Khwarezmian soldiers with broken shields were crushed under hooves. Otrar, with its mud brick walls, fell under siege. Catapults hurled stone and fire day and night. Inalchik was dragged in chains before Genghis Khan. It was rumored that molten gold was poured down his throat. Otrar turned to ashes. Genghis Khan marched on Bukhara. This city, with its turquoise domes and libraries full of manuscripts, was a capital of culture. The Mongols cunningly diverted the river. Thirst brought the people to their knees. Bukhara soldiers with their curved blades fought in the alleys, but the catapults pulverized the walls. The city fell. Genghis, on his white horse, stood inside the Grand Mosque. Korans were trampled under hooves, bazaars looted. Those who surrendered were spared. Those who resisted painted the streets with blood. Rumors of massacre swept like wind toward Samarkand. Samarkand, Ala al-Din's capital, with its high walls and marble palaces, awaited the Mongols. Genghis and his army encircled the city. The catapults roared and arrows darkened the sky. Ala al-Din, terrified, blamed his generals, but betrayal gleamed in their eyes. Within weeks, the gates collapsed. Mongol riders stormed the palace with battle cries. Samarkand, beneath its shattered domes, fell to its knees. Ala al-Din, cloaked in rags, fled the city. Genghis Khan, burning with vengeance, pursued Ala al-Din. The Mongol riders, like shadows, chased him across the deserts of Iran to the Caspian Sea. Broken and exhausted, Ala al-Din found refuge on a small island in the Caspian. There, in a mud hut beneath the shadow of death, he lay. In 1221, the Sultan of the Khwarezmians died without a crown. Genghis, ever strategic, kept an eye on his son Jalal al-Din, but that was a story for another time. The Mongols didn't stop. Naishabur, a Persian city with lush gardens, trembled under their boots. Because one of Genghis's generals was killed in battle, he ordered a massacre. Blood filled the streets, homes burned. Survivors fled, spreading tales of terror to the next cities. Fear itself became Genghis's weapon. The Khwarezmian dynasty, once masters of Iran, was annihilated in just 2 years. This conquest wounded the heart of Iran, but revealed the might of the Mongols to the world. The riches of Samarkand were carried away on endless caravans of camels to the steppes. Persian craftsmen were chained and forced to work for the Mongols. Genghis Khan, through blood and steel, stitched Khwarezma into his empire. Iran, now under the nine-tailed banner, had become part of a global storm. In the year 1227, the Mongol Empire stretched from the Caspian Sea to Kitai, shining like a storm on the steppe. Genghis Khan, through sword and cunning, had built the largest continuous empire in history. But this empire wasn't forged by blood alone. Its secret lay in Genghis's mind, strategies that shook the world and reforms that stitched the steppe together. The Mongol riders, mounted on swift horses, didn't just fight. They created laws that would endure for centuries. With their curved bows, they charged like the wind. Their light cavalry struck from afar with deadly arrows. In battle, they vanished like shadows, wearing down the enemy, then returned like a storm. Subutai, Genghis's brilliant general, perfected this tactic on the plains of Khwarazm. But war wasn't just about the sword. The Mongols weaponized fear. Defiant cities like Nishapur were reduced to ash by massacre. Prisoners were chained and used as human shields before catapults. The rumor of this bloodshed brought the next cities to their knees. Genghis wasn't just a warrior, he was a strategist. His army moved like clockwork. Soldiers were organized in groups of 10, 100, and 1,000. If one betrayed, the whole group paid the price. Loyalty was law. Commanders like Jochi or Subutai were chosen not by tribe, but by merit. Captive engineers from Kitai to Persia built siege engines and bridges. Spies, disguised as merchants, delivered enemy secrets straight to Genghis. This network made the Mongols unstoppable. Genghis ruled his empire with the Yasa, a code of law. Harsh but clear, it brought order to chaos. Theft, betrayal, or disobedience meant death. But Yasa also freed trade. The Silk Road, under the Mongol banner, came alive again with caravans of silk and spices. The Yam, relay stations with fresh horses, carried messages from Kitai to Persia in mere weeks. Persian, Chinese, and Arab merchants shook hands in Mongol markets. Persia, though wounded by war, became the beating heart of global commerce. With sharp foresight, Genghis built a future. His sons, Jochi, Chagatai, Ogadai, and Tolui, each took a piece of the empire. Ogadai, the chosen heir, stood ready to follow in his father's footsteps. In 1227, Genghis lay down in a mud brick tent beside the Yellow River. His heart stopped, but his empire did not. The nine-tailed standard still danced in the wind, from the steppes to the Caspian. Genghis's legacy wasn't just land. His empire, from China to Persia, became the largest continuous domain in human history. The Silk Road, revived under Mongol boots, transported not only goods, but culture and knowledge. Persian astronomers worked in Chinese palaces. Chinese paper reached the markets of Samarkand. But Persia paid dearly. Its cities burned, its soul scarred. Nishapur and Bukhara lived on under Mongol shadow, breathing through deep wounds. Genghis, through blood and law, built a world that trembled for centuries. This empire began with horses and swords, but survived through order and trade. Genghis Khan, a man of the steppe, was not just a conqueror, but a builder. His laws, his generals, and his roads kept the empire's heart beating. The steppes of Mongolia, once nameless and forgotten, had become the center of a world no one had ever dared dream.